Welcome to the Thrive Tribe Business Growth Podcast for business owners who want to start, grow and scale their businesses with practical advice, real experiences and honest conversations.
Hello, I'm Lucy.
And hello, I'm Mark.
And together we run the Thrive Tribe, where we support business owners through training, coaching and community.
We work with SMEs every day and we kept having the same conversations about what works and what doesn't. So what we want to do here is impart our knowledge and give you what actually helps you grow.
In this podcast, we'll be sharing our experiences, talking to other business owners and experts and giving you practical tips that you can take away and use in your business straight away.
So whether you're starting out or looking to scale, you're in the right place. So in this first episode, we wanted to share with you what we've seen, what works in business, and just what really helps businesses grow. There's a lot of common themes running through what we do and the people that we help, and that's what we wanted to do, is just to spend the time sharing with you. Obviously, over the coming weeks as the podcast develops, special guests coming in to impart their knowledge as well, and obviously all for the greater good of making businesses succeed.
So a bit about us. We started our business 25 years ago. We have been in business together. We're husband and wife, and we've been in business together for all of that time. Yes, we are still happily married.
So I haven't been in business for such a long time. We've had some highs and some lows through our business journey. I won't, pretend otherwise. It's not all been it's not always been on the up. But we have learned some really, really important things. And from starting out as a training company many, many moons ago, I suppose COVID times, we were still training. And then after that, we got the opportunity to start teaching businesses. And it's really, it was always our passion, wasn't it? Teaching, educating, it's always been absolutely brilliant. And now we have the opportunity to help businesses growth. Everyone starts at a different level for business. Everyone gets into businesses for a different reason. Could be redundancy, could just be they've had enough, they have an idea. And, we've all got that same passion. That first idea is so important, isn't it, with business? And we've, over these last few years, we just wanted to help more people. And when we see the success that other businesses have, knowing that we've had some input, it's just amazing. But there's plenty of things, isn't there, that I suppose we still learn every day, and we like to pass on and help other people.
Yeah, and we're very, very passionate about making sure that we're up to date with our skills in terms of the new technologies that are coming out. We've been training recently on AI and automations. Obviously, that's a massive area at the moment. And, historically, we've always taught IT skills, Microsoft Office skills, which, again, is still, people still need those skills. Even today, even though I've been teaching Lincolnshire people spreadsheets for the last 20 years, they still a need. It is still a need, definitely. And also, my background, I've got a business management with HR degree. So I do a lot of HR consultancy work, and actually looking at where staffing comes in, and how the new people coming into the labour market now have got completely different expectations to how they had 20 years ago. So quite often the business owners of a organisation have different expectations that don't necessarily align with the expectations of the the new entrants coming into the labour market. So that's a bit of a challenge for businesses that I see at the moment.
And I think the HR side as well, we have a lot of conversations. One of the reasons why we're doing this, isn't it? A lot of conversations for those businesses that are looking to scale. Might not be now, might be sometime down the line, but scaling doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden you need a team of 10 people to come work with you, and a huge expense in terms of investment and training everybody. It might just be working with others, collaborating. And collaboration is so important as you're setting out and setting up. And I think, even outsourcing as well is such a great thing nowadays, where you don't necessarily need to have a full-time member of staff. You can outsource things as well. And definitely that HR side is a really, key thing. And how you are as a leader as well, that management style. I look back at what was run over the years, and, at our peak of running our old company, 50 plus members of staff. And we learned, by doing, didn't we? At the time there wasn't business coaches and things. It was just me, you, my father, and a very small management team, and HR nowadays, well, times have changed, haven't they? In terms of, for good reason, for what you can say, what you can't say, but IT as well, and the problems that people, have with IT that might lead them, to having HR issues. And I know you're obviously very passionate about making sure companies do it right first time, because that is so important. You don't want to be a bad employer. As I say, whether you're actually taking members of staff on or you're having them, as a collaboration or contracting in or out, it's just so important to get it right. You need to be leading by example, and that's a huge thing as well that people are obviously starting to understand as they, as we come into contact with them. It's nothing to be scary. I think people have genuine fears about taking staff on or working with others, and it's not scary as long as you do it in the right way and you set out your vision, for what you're doing and things like that. It's, and again, we'll talk about that as we go further down the podcast.
And I think that's the thing. You're very, very good at having staff and being inspiring and being that leader for people. And I think one thing that you're particularly good at with running companies is the fact that you give autonomy to the staff straight away. We bring staff in and automatically we trust them to do what we've employed them to do. And actually having that faith in them and having that, letting them be able to make those decisions and delegate that work for them. I think, it was something that I struggled with when we first started employing people, is to actually let go of those things. And then I realised that actually I was the bottleneck and things weren't getting past me because I was gatekeeping too much. Whereas you're very much, inspire people to just do their best and let them go and do their best. And actually, I think that's the sign of a good leader, is surrounding yourself with people that know more than you and then trusting them to know that and be able to do that themselves.
That is a huge thing. We've helped many businesses, and one of the, I don't know if you remember, the modern theme of when they've come out of industry or out of a job is the fact that they were micromanaged within an inch of their life. So they were given a task to do, and then the manager was there micromanaging them all the time. And it's kind of like, you've got to have faith. You need to surround yourself with people who can do a better job than what you can. Managers, business owners will never know everything about everyone and everything. And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? We're not, we will never know everything. So it's bring people in who, have a really good skill set and, in all honesty, are better than you at certain things. And when they're in, it's letting them be creative and letting them make decisions. As long as they know the boundaries of what they can do, then I think that's really important, that we don't micromanage people as managers. And, you brought them in for a reason, let them go. Yes, it won't work 110% of the time. It might be 99% where something goes wrong. That's fine. That's a learning experience, isn't it? And I think that's a really, really important thing to do. When something doesn't go right, then learn from the experience and make sure it doesn't happen again by tweaking and whatever else. I think it's really, really easy to be a leader. But I know others obviously struggle. And when you hear the stories from other companies about other people who have come out of the company and you realise they were micromanaged pretty much out the door, what you're doing now, checking with me at 9 o'clock, checking with me at 11 o'clock. It's not a way to run a business. You don't have time.
No. And I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people set up a business because they are really good at what they do. but actually all of the other stuff that goes along with the business, with running a business, like your finance, your HR, your marketing. Marketing is a huge thing for new businesses. And the other reason, and those sorts of things are really tricky to learn. And, you have to learn them as a small business that then can't afford to bring new people in just yet, which, we completely get. It's actually learning those skills yourself and being able to ask the right questions to your subcontractors when you can afford to bring them in, because it does take a while to build that and be able to afford that. We completely get that. And actually being able to bring those people in. And it's a huge learning curve for people that are starting out business. Like I say, they're good at what they do. They're, if they're, making something, or if they're writing books, or, dealing with marketing, it's whatever they're doing, they're really, really good at that, but not necessarily all the other stuff that goes along with running a business. And when people have come out of corporate into that environment, it's really kind of eye-opening for them that actually now they don't have an IT department, they don't have a marketing department, and they have to do everything and actually learn to do everything. So I think, my kind of top tip would be to make sure that you're speaking to other business owners and other businesses. There's loads and loads of networking going on in the country, and there's loads of places where you can go and meet other business owners and ask them questions there, and be really generous with your knowledge and skills as well, so you can all learn from each other. And that's really what we're kind of trying to build here at the Thrive Club, isn't it? We have businesses collectively together so that we can learn from each other and build and grow with each other, because it takes time, and it takes a village to kind of do that. And actually, being able to have that with each other is really important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. In terms of community and just asking for help, I think as business owners, we always like to see it as a sign of weakness, or people do anyway, when they have to ask for some kind of help. And it's kind of like, like I said before, you don't know everything. When you build up those friendships with people who are, and I think this is the important thing to me, is people on the same journey as you. And I think, when you're at work and you're employed, then you're very much, your friends at work are there because they're all doing the same thing. And then it should be the same when you're self-employed, running your own business, limited company, whatever structure it takes. It should be exactly the same. So it should be a matter of, speaking to those people that are on the same journey with you, and networking, I think, especially in England, is just so important. Online networking, hundreds of, probably thousands of groups that meet every week, face-to-face stuff as well. Do it. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know the connections you're going to make. You never know the help that you're going to have and you're going to receive. And the difference, obviously, online, and I say this a lot to the people that we help, there's loads of stuff online. You can pretty much find the solution to anything online, but the problem is you might get a bit here and a bit there, and you never genuinely know, where that is, if what you find is going to be correct. Or at least with that personal connection, the person that you do know and the person you do trust, know, like, and trust. We will cover this lots and lots and lots over the sessions. It's just really, really important. So yeah, get out there and do some networking.
I think people are scared of networking, or I've got people that don't do networking. I've got a preconceived idea that it's all men in dark suits. Is quite often what I hear. But we actually teach networking as part of some of our programs, and that's kind of the barrier that people have. And there's all sorts of different networking that goes on. Like Mark said, there's some that's very structured. There's some that's early in the morning, 7 a.m. breakfast clubs or B&I groups. Some that have lockouts. Some that have, there's some that meet in the pub type of networking. So yeah, I would definitely say that's your favourite.
That's my favourite one. Yeah, I don't get to go out networking very much because Lucy is phenomenal at it. And I do a lot of one-to-one work. But yeah, if there's an event in a pub on an evening, then there you go. I'm in, and then she lets me go.
Yeah, that's my favourite sort of networking is more structured networking that's open. But yeah, and yours is pub now.
Yeah,
Which is why we work
the
so
social
as a
energy.
team together.
But I think that's the thing. If you are concerned about networking, don't be. Everyone when they walk through the door usually is going to be fearful if it's the first time they've done it. And even now, because sometimes it is months before I go networking. You walk through the door and you can see the people who haven't been there before. But then there's networking dance, which again we'll go through as the sessions progress, and it's just a really good experience networking, just to meet those people who have all businesses, all different shapes and size. And I think that's really important for me, is that no two businesses are alike. We've all got unique selling points in terms of what we do. We all have different ways of getting business and trying to promote ourselves. But networking, just have an open mind. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah. And I think my final point on networking is people don't go to networking to buy, so don't go to networking to sell. It's more about that collaborations that you can make, or more about that support that you can get from each other and give to each other, and actually looking for referral partners, that people that are working with the same clients that you're working with. So, for example, a cake baker might want to collaborate with a wedding singer or a events organizer. So you're kind of looking at those people that you can work together with. Definitely.
Yeah.
So what do you think, where do you see businesses going wrong? What mistakes do you think small businesses?
It's going to sound really bizarre, but a lot of people say time. And I do get it, that we've all got the same amount of time. It's just that some people just seem to really maximize every minute of the day. And I have a lot of conversations during one-to-ones, just in terms of people, they've got a big to-do list and they've not actually got a lot of stuff done over their to-do list, either in a day, a week or a month. And it's kind of like, when you run your own business and when you start, and I say controversial, I don't know, but it's almost like every waking minute has to be thinking towards the business, because that's the only way you're going to get growth. It's the only way you're going to grow. During those first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year, 2 years, it's about the hard work that you put in, the seeds that you're planting. So later on, depending on the exit strategy, again, we'll talk exit strategies at some point during the podcast, but just having that idea. So having that mindset about business comes first. And I know everyone's going to be different in terms of, their position in life and, do they have children and relationships and stuff. And I get that. There has to be a balance. But when you're working, we being somebody who's early 50s, when I was a teenager in my 20s, the internet, was about, but only in its infancy. There you go. You're laughing at me. But, from my point of view, there's a lot of people that spend time doom scrolling on social media, and that, I speak to people now, and they said, what, it's almost like an addiction, and it is. And I know there's people that we'll speak to over the podcast who will, be saying about this, but there's people that spend hours every day, and some of it is productive. Some of it is not productive at all. So it's utilising those hours. If you think I've only got between 9 and 5, if you're in an employed job, you'd work really, really hard between 9 and 5. Then you just walk out the door. You'd still think about it on an evening, but you walk out the door and come back 9 o'clock the next day. When you're in charge, when it's your business, it's really important that you realise that, although 9 to 5 is great, if you want to progress and grow, then you need to be looking at extended hours, not consistently, but you just need to push all the time. And I think pushing is just really important. To move the needle of your business every day, you need a few simple things. So you need like that vision board. So for those of you that haven't heard of a vision board, Lucy, do you want to explain the vision board? Because you're good at these. People like it.
Yeah, I think it's especially for creative people that it's great. So basically what we tend to do is have a 10-year plan. The further you look into the future, the more successful you are. Because what you realise is can actually see how little time that you have. So we tend to advocate for kind of planning, looking really, really far into the future. Where do you want to be in 25 years' time? And then working your way back. So looking at where you want to be in the next 10 years, where you want to be in the next 5 years, and then how from that plan, looking at an annual plan as to, right, if I want to be here in 5 years' time, what do I need to do now to make sure I achieve that? And that's really where the vision board comes in. We kind of try and do our vision boards every year. So we have kind of a plan, and we put things on it like what income we want to earn, what materialistic things that we want to have, cars or houses or whatever. Also what we want to be spending our time with, what we want our relationships to look like, what we want to be known for, what our health, we usually have something on health there as well. And actually having that and being able to see it every day. And I think the round the world trip that we had last year was a key example of that. But I'm a very firm believer in what you put out to the universe is what you kind of attract back in. And Mark decided for his 50th year on the earth, he wanted to do all 7 continents. And actually he kind of put that out to the universe, and that was it then. I kind of picked up on that. It's like, right, so where are we going, what we're going to be doing? And we were talking about it all the time, and you would put it on your vision board, and actually, yeah, that's what we want to achieve. And in the summer, we took the children literally around the world. I was so excited that we actually, did China, Japan, New Zealand, Brazil, and back again. And we also did other trips throughout the year as well to different countries. And it's just, if you hadn't have had that on your vision board and you hadn't put that out there, and it wouldn't have happened, because from that, we then got, Erin Newbury, she helped us kind of plan that, didn't she, that around the world trip. And, she was like, yeah, I can help you with that. And actually talking about things that you want to achieve is really, really useful and important, because it makes other people then realise, okay, this is how I can help that person, and this is what they want to achieve. And the more that you put out into the universe like that, the better, because other people then pick that up and know what you're trying to do and trying to achieve. And that's kind of what we do within our tribe, isn't it? The fact that, we try and make sure that everybody gets to know each other really well so that they can help each other. And if there is opportunities that they hear about for somebody else, that then they can kind of put those two together, a bit like, funding opportunities and things like that.
That verbalization of your goals, as well as obviously having the vision board, is really important, because you can have a goal in your head and it'll just stay there. And you might think about it every now and then, but if you start verbalizing what you want to achieve and how you're going to achieve it, you'll be surprised how many people will cheer you along the way. And it just keeps that drive and determination going. And I think in business, we're lucky enough to work for ourselves, and I think this is the almost like the opposite, but in terms of working really, really hard, which we do and we continue to do, most people like the fact of being able to be flexible. So when we went away last year for a month, our business kept going. And I won't pretend it was a month where we didn't do any work. We did do some work on the way around. Yeah, probably most days we had a conversation. One of the wonderful things about being married together and running a business is the fact that Lucy will usually jump. Wrong word to use. Lucy will usually start chatting to me first thing in the morning. So Lucy's brain goes into overtime at night. She sleeps, she wakes up, and she just pours out all of her thoughts that she's had. I pretty much am a bit later on in the day. My peak time's probably about 10 o'clock, but that's just how it works. So when we're away, we're still having business conversations. We were still making some lists. We were still planning as well as enjoying ourselves. And I think that verbalization, because we verbalized it lots with people. So our friends, our family, our peers, people that we knew in business, we put out there what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And if you keep it as a secret, then, it may never happen. But if you verbalize it, it spurs you on. And the decisions that you make for your business will usually align with that. And I think not sure if people have heard this, but something like the North Star, So the North Star is a really, really big goal that you want to achieve in life and in business. And what I always say is once we've helped people think about what their North Star is going to be, I always say that you need to every single day just do one thing that's making you head towards your North Star. And that might be something as daft as reading an article online, watching a podcast. It could be something so small, reading a book, speaking to somebody about something. It doesn't, you don't spend hours on it every day, but just that little by little. If you did 10 minutes a day, 6 days a week, give you some day for good behavior, that's an hour a week. You do that over a year, that's 1.5, 1.25 working weeks that you put towards your North Star. And again, having that North Star, print it out and put it somewhere, and it's kind of weird because the vision board and the North Star, I say to people, have it displayed in your house. Don't hide it away. If you've got the North Star on the vision board, put it in the bathroom. If you've got a bathroom downstairs, put it in the bathroom. So when guests come to the bathroom, they can see that. They're always going to ask, what's that about? And then that opens up the conversation. A lot of the stuff that we do is about inspiring others. And that is so important to me. It's a real big thing that I want to inspire others to reach their highest potential, which is the tagline for the Thrive Track. So important to me because we get one shot at life. And it's just so important that we make the best of now, and things do go wrong in life. I'd love to say it was always going to be an upwards trajectory, but as long as you learn from things, like I said before and earlier on, if you learn from things and mistakes that are made, and just make sure they don't happen again, make a couple of tweaks and try again. But yeah, it's just so important. We do get one shot at life. We never know, when time's up. Bit morbid, but I want to just do as much as I can. I want to help as many people as I can do. And it's just so important for me and you to do that, isn't it? We've made some wonderful friends, wonderful associates. And I think now with the podcast, especially, we just want to help more people. Yeah, we want to do stuff that we want to do stuff in the UK. We want to do stuff internationally, and we just want to help because, and I say this to everyone that we help at the moment, it's about, their success is our success. And I think that is so important. And what I always say is, even from the podcast, if you get one thing out of this podcast or each of the sessions that we do on the podcast, and you can implement one thing that makes something that changes, the needle of your dial in terms of your business, our job is done. There'll be lots more than one, but if you just action one thing, it just makes the world a difference.
Definitely. And just going on with that, having those foundations within business as well, making sure that you've got your missions, visions and values nailed and written down. And we do a lot of we do courses and things on how to help people design those. But it then helps everything. It helps you make your decisions. It helps when you've got staff involved as well. It helps them make the same decisions that you would in terms of your values. And, our values are very much around educating, supporting people, and growing with other people, and also being flexible and adaptable to, our clients. We work weekends and evenings and things like that. We do take time off. I know it sounds like we work all the time, and we're not advocating that at all. We have designed our lives around us and our children. We have 4 children. And we want to show them different places in the world, and we want to give them the confidence to be able to go out and do other things and be who they want to be and grow how they want to grow. And we do that by supporting them. So our company values are the same as our family values, in that we want to be able to make sure that we have designed our lives around how we want to support people and how we, want to, support our children and things like that. But actually being able to work weekends and evenings, it is absolutely fine for us. We don't mind that, because we do take every 6 weeks off, every half term we're out the country usually, because we're wanting to then spend time with the children. So it's you don't have to design your working life on a 9-to-5 job like you would in corporate world. A lot of people start businesses because they have families and because they want to have that flexibility and to be able to go and pick them up and go and look at, go and see the nativity play and sporting events and things like that, and actually be there with the children and spend that time with them. And that's what we've done. We have designed our lives around that. And, yes, we do, like I say, we do work weekends and evenings sometimes, but because we know that busy business people want to have that flexibility from us, which is what we give, and that's kind of who our clients are and who we're serving. But it works for us as a family as well. And it's really important that your working life fits around your personal life as well.
And I think, again, it's quite an interesting point, because in terms of that family dynamic that we have, and I say, love my children to bits. Well, I'm always going to say that, but they are phenomenal. And again, for those of you that do have children or people that you care for, it's about making sure you spend time with them, all the activities that we have to take all the children to. But again, it's just so important for us, isn't it, that we can be there for them and, inspiring them as well. We won't go through our story, but in terms of businesses, my father ran his own business, your mum and your dad run their own business, and we're hoping, if we inspire enough, our children will do the same. They'll look at, in fact they do, we have conversations now that at the moment we've got a 15-year-old, 2 13-year-olds and a 10-year-old, and I am genuinely in awe of how entrepreneurial they are. And from the school ringing us up and saying, your son is selling tins of Coke at school, can you please ask him to stop it? Because he'd been to the co-op and he'd bought, other supermarkets are available, but he'd been there and got a multi-pack and then divvied the multi-pack up and then charged them whatever he charged them for a tin. But it's stuff like that, and I'm kind of, obviously I had to take it serious, but, I've got to find features that's brilliant. How entrepreneurial is that? We've got another one that does 3D prints on his printer and sells those online. We've got, even the littlest one is thinking about, when he doesn't use something anymore, how can I get the money back rather than, just leave it. And my daughter as well, makes bracelets that she sells. And it's that kind of thing that we want. If you get it right, if you can inspire, which is obviously the whole idea of what we're trying to do here, then, the kids are going to be all right. It's a different world than when I left school X amount of years ago. There's so many new things. We were talking about earlier on, AI is a big fear for a lot of industries. But we look at it the other way. We look at, well, how can we use it to better what we have at the moment, what we're doing? How can we harness the power of AI, for the better? And our children as well, we want them to do the same way. We don't need to be scared of technology. They've been brought up with far more technology than what we have. But it's how do they use it, for what they need to going forward in terms of work. And I'm sure we'll bring the kids up lots as we go forward.
I think we've kind of covered off everything that we wanted to today, haven't we?
Yeah.
And just to give you guys a real insight into who we are and what the Thrive Tribe is all about, and how we can help people. I'm sure we'll be dropping lots of tips and hints and things as we go through the podcasts, as we kind of further along, and now we're further podcasts. We're going to have some guests in, which is very exciting.
And I think it's worth pointing out that for anyone out there that's obviously found this podcast and have listened to the first episode with myself and Lucy, there's no magic. It is about that hard work. It's about finding something you're passionate about as well, which is really, really important. That you got to have a passion for whatever you're doing, otherwise it just doesn't work. And do your best. And then from there, obviously, once you start looking at it, you've got it under control. Wherever you've been in business 1, 2, 5, 10 years. And once you've done that, it's then about, how do you progress? What are your aspirations for it? Is it to potentially sell it? Is it just to run it while you're still fit and healthy? You know, do you want to take people on? There's a whole different things that you need to look at. And with the podcast, we want to help people. And that's of paramount importance to us. It's helping businesses and individuals, you know, reach their highest potential. Everyone has got so much potential in this life, and it's just harnessing it in a way that you can do it, you know, and you know, the way the world, you know, we just want to help. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in episode 2. Thanks so much for listening to the Thrive Tribe Business Growth Podcast.
If you found this useful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and feel free to share it with another business owner who might need it.
And if you'd like more support, you can find us inside the Thrive Tribe community, or get in touch to find out more about our programs at thethrivetribe.com.
We'll see you in the next episode.